Potty in 3 minutes. A Cudahy to all my friends and relatives in 4 directions. You're listening to Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake, and I'm your host, Wakunja Hade. Ahu Hotrunk Raja Wakunja Hade. Yadena. On today's show, we discuss national and Twin City Native American news events and issues. As we all know, Native issues are human issues, and human issues are Native issues.
Today, the American Indian COVID-19 hotline is open Monday through Friday from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. and their phone number is 513049986. We'll bring you more information on that.
That's awesome. Today's segment's brought to you by them.
That's right.
Awesome. So we always start off. It's pretty fun to work with everybody here. We have Oglama who does the news, and I want to go right to Oglama with the news. Welcome, and let's rock and roll. We're on 5 days a week.
Can we hear her?
I can't hear you, Emma. You must be muted. So we don't hear Emma right now.
Well, while Emma is getting, oh, there we go. Yeah.
Yeah. Pinigigi Oglama for the news. We're really excited to have Emma on.
I was excited her in person.
Emma, welcome to Native Roots Radio. This is not the mothership, but this is the first time we'll be going live for 5 days straight, and Monday through Friday from 6 to 7. So, Pinigigi for being on, and can you tell us a few things about what happened and what this action was all about and how you did this?
Yeah, thank you guys so much, and thanks for having me on the show. I really appreciate the opportunity. I had the opportunity to take action on behalf of and with the leadership of the GNU Collective, which is a group that has been holding down the front lines fight against the Line 3 pipeline for many years now, a big source of leadership in the movement. And so I had the opportunity to take action with that group and a tripod. You can check out the videos and photos on GNU Collective's Facebook or Instagram page if folks want to see what happened and support their work more from there. But essentially, it was an opportunity to block a pipe yard in Bacchus, Minnesota, where Enbridge Energy is moving in big pipes to build the Line 3 pipeline through the ground, through land that should be protected by the treaties in Minnesota. And stopping that pipeline means more to me than anything in the world, and taking action to stop the moving of those pipes, especially at an action like that was led by Indigenous comrades, was just a really powerful opportunity and a really humbling experience. So that happened about a week ago, and the fight still continues against Line 3 to slow down construction and get that pipeline stopped, because it violates so many of our values as a movement for Indigenous sovereignty and for protecting land and water. That was the opportunity that I had to be part of the movement. And as you can see, I'm in my car, or folks that are watching the live stream can see I'm in my car still up north. Spending every day trying to stop this pipeline with some really incredible people. So that's a little bit of background.
Wow. That's exciting, and we're really excited to have you on. Can you give us, in the next 3 minutes here, we're going to be talking a little bit about how can we support your action up there, and who can we support? We know that Line 3 is not a good situation. We talk about it all the time, Wendy, and and so Emma, do you think you could give us a quick pitch on how we can support your action? Because you're up there now, right?
Yeah, I have been up north for the past little bit. So like I said, folks should definitely follow the GNU Collective online. And if you have access to resources, if you're a settler with access to generational wealth, to share that wealth with the GNU Collective. And there are lots of other groups that are leading the movement up north on the front lines. I ran into Robert the other day at the water protector camp that Honor the Earth has opened up for Welcome Water Protectors. You can go online and find that group, where Winona LaDuke and others are hosting a public camp that anyone can show up at to support the movement. Another group is the Gitche Gumee Scouts, led by a water protector named Tasha. There's actually an action that they're hosting tomorrow. So if you check out the Gitche Gumee Scouts on Facebook, you can come up north and join us for that action. So that's another group to check out in the movement. And you can go to Minnesota 350 and sign the Pledge of Resistance, which is one good place to get plugged into an email list about a lot of different kinds of action that are happening. So those are a few places to check out: GNU Collective, the Welcome Water Protectors Camp, the Gitche Gumee Scouts, and the Pledge of Resistance on Minnesota 350 as well, to get kind of updates across the boards. But anywhere that you can support Indigenous leadership on the front lines of this movement is the place to be. And folks really need our support to stop this pipeline right now. So, yeah.
Yeah. I might have a really quick question.
Oh, Wendy, I'm sorry. I'm having a hard time hearing you.
Just wondering if you could just describe the tripod because nobody can see it, what you were on and how high that tripod was.
Yeah, so a tripod is like three poles that stand up in kind of like a a cone shape and are tied together at the top. I was probably about 20, maybe 22, 3 feet in the air, climbed up into that space and then was locked in a lockbox around the tripod pole. So it's a structure that is really stable. It's like a perfect triangle, right? And so it stays really solid, but it's very hard for cops to extract you from, and takes their creativity. We know that the cops are not a creative or critically thinking bunch, so it took some like head scratching from the police of what to do with me up there. And they're a tried and true tactic of land defense that's been used all over this continent. And of course, the tripod itself is an ancient structure of building. Tara Haska shouted that out about the action last week, that the tripods are old on Turtle Island, right? It's just stacking 3 pieces together to balance that way is a classic structure.
Hey, thanks for stopping on. We're going to have Dr. Anthony Stately on next, and you're listening to Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake, and we'll be right back.
Why are they playing this?
What?
Why are they playing this?
Because they pay the station, I guess, and we're. Did you like how I brought up the music and everything? Like how I brought up the music and everything?
Yeah. That.
Yeah, right from this phone.
Oh, cool. Yeah, I wanted to.
That's cool. Keep an eye on the clock though too,
Yeah.
because there's only a minute left. We're trying to stay really tight with the clock because we're going national.
Okay, gotcha.
So if we want to put this on, then the time's got.
Okay.
So listen, Jay Selby's.
No, I have.
What? So I'm gonna, before I say anything, you're gonna say this portion's brought to you by.
Okay. I wasn't ready. Tell me that. That's what.
I thought you were ready. So just say this. It's fine. I'm freaking out. What's up?
Hey, Robert, we can hear you and Wendy talking in the background through the Facebook Live feed.
Right now?
Right now, yep. So we can't hear the commercials on the Facebook Live feed, but we can hear you and Wendy talking.
That's so weird because we have it muted.
Bad?
Yeah, I don't know. I just hear people through the Facebook feed and the commercials, but
We'll talk.
I wonder if it's this thing. Okay, thanks. It might be the other camera.
Sounds good.
Okay, thanks. Hey, welcome back to Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake, and I'm your host, Wakanja Hade.
And this portion of the show is brought to you by the Twin Cities American Leading COVID-19 Hotline at resources, food resources, housing assistance, isolation space, and vaccine information. You can reach them at 651-304-9986.
Well, Wendy. Hey, we have an awesome guest that we got to meet at one of our symposiums. It's Dr. Anthony Stately, and we were so excited to have the doctor on, and we want to make this a regular thing, and we have questions, everything set for him. So with no further ado, let's get the good doctor on. Hey, welcome, doctor. How are you today?
Bonjour, I'm doing well. How are you all?
We're doing good. We're having a little technical difficulty, and I'm the only one you're going to be able to hear, so hopefully I'll be able to carry this conversation.
Fine job.
Hey, thank you so much. So you just tell us a little bit about yourself, doctor, and then we got a few questions to ask you, especially with what's happening with COVID. And so again, welcome to Native Roots Radio Presents I'm Awake.
Well, thank you so much. So my name is Anthony Stately. I'm Oneida, enrolled in the Oneida Tribe of Wisconsin, and I'm a descendant of the White Earth and the Red Lake Nations here in Minnesota. My father was from Red Lake. My mother was from White Earth. I was born and raised in South Minneapolis, which is exactly where the Native American Community Clinic is situated, along the cultural corridor in South Minneapolis on Franklin Avenue. A neighborhood that I was raised in throughout most of my life. So I'm really privileged to be in the role of Chief Executive Officer for that organization and working in the community in which I was born and raised. It brings tremendous satisfaction and deep sense of honor to be able to hold that role and to serve my community. I work alongside a group of amazing people, both in my clinic and then also lots of community partners in and around South Minneapolis serving the community. So,
well, this is exciting. I was wondering if you could tell our audience what your experience has been with lately and during the whole process with the COVID. What's happening with COVID in Indian country specifically?
Sure. Well, I have a personal experience, but I also have a lot of professional experience. So I'm not sure if you want me to talk about the personal experience I had, or.
Yeah, that'd be great, because if you don't mind, because it's personal.
Sure.
And then this next segment we have you on, we can talk about more things. But I think you have a compelling story, and also let our audience know.
Sure, I'm happy to talk about my personal experience. So, in early November, my son started to feel ill, and I thought he had strep throat. He was complaining of a sore throat. It was really like his only symptom that he was having for a couple of days, and it kind of was intermittent. Came one day, left the next, kind of came back again, and then within a couple of days, fairly rapidly, it was like such a sore throat that he couldn't swallow. And so I was like, oh, Monday, let's go get you tested, swabbed for strep, because I've had multiple experiences. I have twin boys, and so my experience throughout their entire life for the last 13 years is like what one kid gets, the other kid gets right away. So I was gonna try to nip that in the bud really quickly. And then he tested negative for strep, but the doctor was like, well, let's do a rapid COVID test on him today, because some of his symptoms are COVID symptoms. And we had been really careful about taking the precautions that we needed. I work in the healthcare field, so I was lecturing them a lot about wearing masks and social distancing and all those other things. We were really very careful about, not spending lots of time with people outside of our sort of mostly closely knit family. And being really cautious about things. But they had recently, in early October, started to go back to youth sports. My sons have been hockey players for the last 7 or 8 years. And so I think this is probably where my son got exposed. There was lots of sort of conversations in our household about how inconsistent people were being with mask wearing, including even my own child in the locker room, which I think is where the nexus point was for the opportunity for infection or for to become exposed. And fairly quickly, within 2 days of him getting positive, I started feeling sick. So then I went in and got tested as well. And they sent it out for PCR testing because my first rapid test, which I took with him, had been negative. And then I got the news that I was positive, and within days, my other son got positive. And then within days of him testing positive, the other father of the boys, my partner Conan, he also got sick. So all four of us were living in this little tiny townhouse that we used to live in, and we rapidly got just spread around our house, even while we were trying to isolate and do all the things that they tell you to do to sort of mitigate any opportunity for exposure and for transmission. And I think some of that was just that, we lived in a small house, we have small children. There was little opportunity for us to really try to mitigate transmission within this small environment like that. And then also, we could have all been exposed and developed symptoms at different rates. Like, we know that that's true. Like, people can be positive and not develop any symptoms for anywhere between 7 to 10 days, right? So there's all kinds of things that could explain like that experience. So that happened in early October. In early November, like November 10th or so, 16th ish is when I got my results back. But within a week of getting my results, I landed in the hospital. I kind of, was going along, doing well, not having any real significant challenges. And then one night, I was taking my Oxats like regular and doing really well, mid 95s to 97. The night that I went to the bed on the Sunday, the 22nd of November, my SAT levels were at 97, and I thought, oh, great, I'm doing really well. Went to bed, woke up the next morning, and my SATs could not get above 91 or 92 throughout the majority of the day. And initially I thought, well, this is just because I was sleeping, and SATs are usually a little bit lower when you first wake up.
Doctor, let's jump into the story in a few and catch up where we are, because I think everybody really needs to hear this. You're listening to Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake, and here with Dr. Right back. can't hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Hey, I want to welcome everybody back to Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake.
And this portion of the show is brought to you by the American Hotline, home.
Wow. Dr. Stately left us with a cliffhanger there. Please tell us about your experience in the hospital, because that story was amazing.
Yeah. Well, I ended up in the hospital very rapidly. It was the week of Thanksgiving. It was my first Thanksgiving away from my family and my children. It was really tough emotionally, of course. And then, it really didn't really dawn on me or settle on me until I got to the hospital. They admitted me. I was like, okay, this is pretty serious. And they did all their things and worked up to me and admitted me right away. And I spent the first day or two there kind of thinking, they were difficult times. My breathing was getting really challenged. They put me on oxygen right away, came in and talked to me about all the experimental treatments they were going to give me and things. And then my second day I was there, the first full day, my first full night there, I was sitting in my room and I could hear people through the vents crying and, number of things. And I felt really sad for them. And and that earlier that day, I had texted my sister and asked her, I said, I forgot to bring medicines with me to the hospital. I had to leave so quickly. So can you bring me a shell and some sacred medicines, the 4 sacred medicines, so I can pray, because I had a rough night the first night. And so I did that, and I prayed for these people I could hear crying in the hospital, that Creator would comfort them and things, because I thought, well, maybe they're alone, or maybe they don't have any way of talking to their families. And at least I have the ability to pick up a cell phone and call my family. And then the second night I was there, things still were pretty bad. Things hadn't gotten much better. My second full day there. And I had talked to an elder, and elder said, 2 things to me. One elder said, pray to that spirit of COVID, and because we have that spirit, that disease, that virus has a spirit, and just like lots of things have spirit, and pray to that spirit and have a conversation with it and ask it to leave, ask it, acknowledge that it came into your life for a reason. And then the other one just said, just pray to Creator, tell Creator what you need, tell what you want. And so that night I prayed to the spirit of COVID, and I said, I think I know what your visitation with me is about. And I certainly have gotten the opportunity to sit and think and pause about the preciousness of life, and how much I sometimes take that for granted as I barrel through my day. But I understand now this experience, and so I'm going to ask you to leave my family, because I've learned from you the things I think I need to learn. And then I had a really just intimate, very brief conversation with Creator. My prayer was simple. I just was like, I said, Creator, I'm not done here yet. I have boys that I have to continue to raise. They need me. They need me to finish that job. And I have so many people that I love, and so many people who love me that I need to say goodbye to before I can leave this world. And I also said, I really have a lot of unfinished work that I want to complete in my role in the community. My community needs a lot of assistance and help, and I want to be able to do that. And I just said, please let me stay. I need to stay. I want to stay. Right. And that was the 3rd night I was there, and I woke up the next morning and things were starting to get better fairly quickly. And then within, I think, the next couple of 48 hours or so, things turned around for me and started improving rapidly. I know the docs want to think that it was the experimental medicine they were giving me, which is probably partially true, but I believe in the power of prayer and putting out words and sending out prayers to Creator and to our ancestors, and who are always with us and there and able to answer our prayers when we ask for assistance. So
Wow.
it was transformative for me.
Wow. Do you feel any long-term effects from COVID, doctor?
I have things like I can, if I don't sort of watch how much energy I expend on activities, I can kind of barrel through my day still and try to accomplish too much. Runs to the grocery stores, cooking, laundry, trying to take care of the kids, do my job, get on all my Zooms as well, and all that stuff. And if I don't sort of pay attention to sort of my level of energy, I can hit a wall. I have noticed that I still have this kind of tightness in my chest that makes it difficult for me to breathe at times. And it's not as serious as it was before. It wasn't like an elephant sitting on my chest, which is what it felt like before. It's just kind of like this tightness and this sort of like physical sensation of like, I don't know, I kind of think of it as like, COVID's sort of like, has this little grip on me still, and like just just an acknowledgement, hey, I was present in your life and don't forget that I was here, kind of thing. And it only happens intermittently throughout the day where I feel like I have to catch my breath. So
why do you think it's affecting the Native community like it has been, doctor? Do you have any idea?
Well, I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that, we already had so many significant health disparities in our community. The Native community, when we compare it to other communities throughout the state, throughout the country, we have some of the highest rates of those comorbidities that people talk about that place us at significant risk for, succumbing to COVID-19. And that's bearing out to be true in the data that we're seeing. When Native Americans do test, when we do finally test, we are, by the way, one of the communities in Minnesota that tests much less frequently than the rest of the other population. So there's some work to be done with that. But when we do test and we become positive, the trajectory of becoming positive to becoming sick, and then also succumbing to it, dying early, those trajectories are much more shorter and much quicker than they are for the rest of the population. And that, I think, has to do a lot with these unsolved chronic conditions that have been, challenging our communities for years. Asthma, diabetes, heart disease, those kinds of things that we really need to work hard on moving the needle in the next several years so that we are less vulnerable to these kinds of pandemics when they do happen.
Wow. Hey, I want to ask you, how is the rest of your family feeling, and how have they made it through?
They're all doing well. We were really scared for my partner. He has multiple long-term chronic conditions. He has long-term diabetes, 14 years with diabetes, type 1 diabetes, that often goes uncontrolled. He has an autoimmune disorder. He has a number of other things. And we all thought he was going to get sick and die. He thought he was going to get sick and die. He had lots of conversations with me, like, I'm not going to survive this, I know. And he has worked through it and come out the other side miraculously. The boys were good. They had different trajectories. The first one got sick for a very brief period of time, mild symptoms, kind of like cold-like symptoms and the sore throat. And then the other one was sicker a little bit longer, but they both came out okay and they're doing well. But I think it was a wake-up call for our family, for sure. We've had to really rethink how we do things and how we spend time and what we prioritize and those kinds of things, right?
Wow. Wow. The Native Americans are not trusting the vaccine due to some things. Can you talk to our people out there and I don't know, say it's safe, or just talk to them and
Sure. Sure. Well, I think that first of all, their ambivalence and their intrepidation about wanting to take the vaccine comes from all kinds of things, right? The medical society or the medical system for years and years did some pretty horrible things to Native Americans. They experimented on them. They did all kinds of other kinds of things, just like they did to Black people. And so that mistrust that we have of health systems is a good, healthy sort of like mistrust and sort of like, should I really, so I think that we all should have a little bit of healthy dose of sort of like, questioning and wondering, right? And I think that makes a lot of sense. That history is rich in even, I remember being a little boy and hearing about the IHS sort of sterilizations of Native women, and I'm 58 years old, right? And that happened when I was maybe 10, I think that news broke, 10, 11, 12 years old. But that sort of narrative and that information lives within the stories of our community, even, with successive generations. And so that kind of stuff has an impact on our willingness to sort of take up, anything that the US government sort of says is okay. So a good, healthy sort of skepticism is a good thing, but we also have to challenge that skepticism and start to think, okay, what's the arguments for the other side for taking the vaccine or trusting this issue? It also hasn't helped that we've had an administration all the way from the top, all the way to the bottom, saying really crazy stuff that sort of doesn't, that actually is, confusing and convoluting at times, right? So that kind of stuff has been really challenging. One of the things I think that we should know as a Native community is that, the science behind this vaccine is solid. We, in the turn of the century, in the early 1900s, and the 30s, 40s, and 50s, when we were developing other vaccines like polio vaccine and those kinds of things, where we were as a society with our technology and our understanding of disease and viruses and the ability to address those things and create medicines that would address those things, we're light years from where we're at now. So the ability for us to develop a vaccine that maybe 30, 40, 50 years ago would have taken us 5 to 10 years to develop in a 10-month time frame, that's realistic, that's where our science is now, which is really something that we can trust. And the vaccine itself, I think everybody has to kind of decide for themselves as individuals and as families, like the level of risk versus benefit of taking the vaccine, right? So what I like to tell people, and I'm in healthcare, and people can probably say, well, he's biased, he's in healthcare. I've had my own experiences with my children. I remember when HPV came out and everyone's saying, vaccinate your kids who are under age 13. But I was like, well, let me read the information on this. Maybe let me study it a little bit. So I've been in that situation before, but here's what I do know is things like things that make sense to me. I'm a scientist, but I'm also a parent, right? So I have a good, healthy sort of dose of both of these things.
Well, Dr. Stately, thank you so much for being on Native Roots Radio Presents I'm Awake. Thank you so much, and we'll see you next week, all right?
Sure. We can talk more about this. I can talk about the work NAC's doing specifically around this. So.
Oh, thank you.
All right. Thank you for having me on. I really appreciate it.
Peeny Gigi. We'll be right back after this short break.
You good.
Don't leave, doctor. We'll come back to you. Welcome back to Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake, Wendy, and you want to just give us the brought to you by?
That's right. COVID.
Well, Dr. Stately, you were getting again into the meat and potatoes of this, and it's fun because one of our people that are watching this is you swayed them into this, so that's really good. Doug, we love Doug. So, Dr. Stately, could you just finish up with us on why it's good to get a vaccination, and then we'll let you go. But we want you on every week, and we really appreciate the information that you're giving us. Peony.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it. Yeah, I think it's important to get vaccinated because here's one thing I want people to consider. So all kinds of different vaccines have all kinds of different reliabilities, or what is it called? Like the chances of getting of being okay versus getting sick, right? We hear all the time like, well, I'm not going to take the flu vaccine because it's only 30% or 40% chance that it's going to be effective. Well, this specific vaccine has been shown in large scale studies to be 95, 96% effective in protecting people against becoming infected by the coronavirus, which is much more rapidly and much more problematic than some other things we get vaccinated for. What I always like to tell people when they think about it is like, if you don't take a vaccine, you have 0% chance of protection, right? So think about that. So you're sort of kind of up against the laws of sort of probability, like chance here. Like I'm just going to take the chance that I'm not going to get infected at all. Versus if you take a vaccine that's proven to be effective and at addressing something, you have, and with this situation with this, you have a fairly high level of confidence, up to 95% probability that you'll be protected from becoming infected by the virus for a very long period of time. Upwards of a couple of years, right? So long enough to sort of kind of establish some herd immunity in communities like ours, which is really important. And help to sort of like turn the curve and bring that down a little bit so that it's impacting us a lot less. One of the things I think that's really important is to remember that some of the most vulnerable individuals in our communities are our older people, the people who have knowledge of our cultural traditions and our ceremonies. They also speak our language, they're first speakers. So holding on to those treasures involve taking every effort that we have to be able to preserve those individuals in their lives so that they can be a treasure to all of us for generations to come, right? So let's do what we can to ensure that our old ones and the ones that are older than us, holding on to that knowledge, are around for quite a while. Because being healthy and well involves much more than just the absence of disease. It means also having the tools that allow us to lead healthy and prosperous lives. And that's as important as not having coronavirus.
Well, thank you so much, Peony Gigi, for being on with us tonight. And again, we are going to look forward to whatever capacity you have for updates, because this, for one, is not going away. And two, you're living it every day, and you can get some big insight all over Turtle Island. So Peony Gigi again, Dr. Stately.
Wishing you all a happy new year. Be well. Bye.
Wow, Wendy.
Yeah, I like about the vaccine. Vaccine. And RNA vaccine. And then it was waiting for this to happen.
Wow.
That they could produce it and make it. People think it's brand new, but this is really good.
Well, before we get to your segment, Oglama, what did you think? The doctor is awesome. Comes with all this information, and his family was sick, and it's heart-wrenching. It's heart-wrenching. I mean, on Facebook, I see people passing every day from disease, Oglama. Yeah, exactly. Hey, I want to introduce my awesome and beautiful wife, Wendy Pilot. She's been a volunteer Minnesota State Council member Society of the United States, and she works on animal issues at the state level. Wendy, this is your 2 minutes of glory. The other day,
I don't
talking
really
about
have that
our
much to say, but I want to and look up people, COVID and animals. All I see are headlines that read something like this. The real COVID is renewing our and what if people who don't know who that I know James Goodall, Dr. James Goodall, and this says COVID-19 is a product of our unhealthy relationship with animals and our environment. And if people remember in 2009, we had a swine flu epidemic in the United States, and it was affected by it. A lot of people don't remember it because there weren't a lot of deaths from it, although it could have been very deadly. And it was because of the animal. And I just want to so much
oh, really good point, Wendy. You know, this has been a great show. We're on 5 days a week now. It's amazing. I want to thank Doctor for being on, Dr. Stately, Emma, and I want to thank Emma for the news, Peony Gigi for running all the stuff behind us. I would like to end with these thoughts. You're listening to the show. You are part of the resistance. The ground on which we stand on is sacred ground. It is the blood of our ancestors. We need to resist, divest, join a group, run for office. You've been listening to Native Roots Radio Presents I'm Awake. We'll see you tomorrow.